Welcome everyone to Van Life Sheldon's Travel. Good morning everyone. I'm Mike.
I'm Stephanie.
And we're Van Life Sheldon's Travels. This is Sheldon, our little yellow belly slider turtle, and today we're right here in Peukert, Arizona at the 2018 van build and party. But today, Battleborn batteries are here. We're gonna walk over, get us a spot, and bring the presentation to you guys. We'll probably walk around too, see what else we can get into today, and we'll bring you guys with us like we always do. So let me get over here, see what's going on, and get us a spot. I think somebody already saved us a spot. Thank you, Danielle.
And talked to him, and he agreed to come down. I was just over the moon that he was willing to give us a presentation. I put in a few Battleborn batteries on my own installs, and I've never heard anything bad about them. They've got a great BMS system, which he's going to talk about. So let's give him and Diane a warm welcome and hear what he has to say.
Can you guys hear me okay without the microphone? You want me to use the microphone?
Yeah.
All right, I'm Sean Nichols with Battleborn Batteries, and today we're going to try to give you a brief overview of how to use a lithium battery in a van build. Kind of crosses over to RVs too. And then we'll open it up for questions. So I know you guys might have some questions. I think a few years ago, about 5 years ago, we started building these batteries out of my garage, and we kind of went full speed, and the Battleborn brand has become very popular in the van life and also in RVs and in boats now too. So over the years, we've had a lot of experience looking at different systems, how the components work together, alternator charging, solar charge controllers, inverter chargers, all those types of things. I think that our battery is most suited to be a drop-in replacement out of any of the other batteries in the industry. It's designed and assembled in Reno, Nevada, and the battery management system is proprietary to our battery. We're not using prismatic cells. We only use cylindrical cells, which actually cycle longer than prismatic cells. So we offer a 10-year warranty on our battery. It's an 8-year full replacement plus 2 years prorated purchase at a discount or repair the battery that you have. Let's start at the front. So, biggest question you always get is alternator charging. You can charge our batteries off an alternator, no problem. If you have more than 3, we recommend you use our special battery isolation manager. Due to the fact that lithium has very little resistance inside of it, it charges very easily. So it'll take a lot of power off your alternator if you let it. We have a special isolator that charges 15 minutes on, 20 minutes off. That way you never risk overheating your alternator. The way we came up with the 15-minute number was to do some testing for an RV manufacturer. It takes about 15 minutes for the stator temperature of your alternator to heat up to the point where the efficiency of the alternator drops, which is where it starts to get hot. So we cut the charging off there. It takes about 2 minutes for the alternator to cool off. But we give it 20 just to be conservative because we don't want to shorten the lifespan of your alternator charging our batteries. If you have less than 3 batteries, you can use a regular battery isolation manager. Just a standard old trombetta isolator. Some people call it a relay or a solenoid. From there, you're looking at your other components for charging. The inverter charger. Does anybody here have an inverter charger? What kind do you have?
It's a Kissy, I think it's called.
What kind is it?
Kissy.
Kisei?
Kissy.
Both of you have Kisei? I know the guy that owns that company.
Yeah,
So a guy named Lawrence Neal is a good guy. He used to work at Xantrex for a long time. Okay, so a Kisei inverter charger, a Victron, Magnum, Xantrex, Ames, all those inverter chargers work great with our batteries. The reason why is we designed our battery management system to work on the same charging algorithm as an AGM battery. So what you're looking for is a 14.2 to 14.6 bulk and absorb with a 13.6 or lower float charge. Most components out there have that. With solar charge controllers, anybody here got solar? What kind of solar charge controller do you have?
Morningstar.
Morningstar?
Yeah.
Great.
Ames.
Ames?
Ames.
All right. Victron?
Epic Solar.
I was waiting for someone to say they had a piece of equipment from Ames. I used to be the vice president of Ames for 7 years before I started this company. That's how I got my foot in the door in mobile power solutions. All those components work fine with our batteries too. As a matter of fact, what we do differently at our company is we provide this knowledge out to customers about how the parts interact with lithium up front before you make the purchase. And we'll tell you how to set it up and Sometimes even Diane writes blogs and guides and things like that on how to set those components up. So you're looking for the same thing, 14.2 to 14.6 bulk and absorb. On the solar charge controllers, we say 13.8 or lower on the float, so people can use the Go Power also, because they're running 13.8 float on those, which are very popular in RVs. I'm sure someone out here must have a Go Power component, maybe.
Yeah, I got an inverter.
Inverter.
Okay, all right. So from there, you're looking, does anyone here have a converter for charging instead of an inverter charger? All right. What kind of converter do you have?
It's an iota.
Iota? Perfect.
Charging a lithium.
That's an Arizona product.
I don't even know if it works. I've never had to use it.
All right, well, it'll work fine charging our batteries. So will a WIFCO converter or a Progressive Dynamics. If you've got an RV, the chances are it could have came with that component in advance. So that, you know, how about a battery monitor? Is anyone here using a battery monitor? A Victron?
Bogart Engineering. Morningstar.
Bogart? Okay, you got a Trimetric, Morningstar? All right, all those components work with our battery too. And that's why we say it's a drop-in replacement, because we make it very simple to harness this technology. So, all right, so everybody always says lithium batteries are expensive. How many people here have an iPhone? Do you ever think you'd have a $1,000 cell phone in your pocket? So our batteries are a little more expensive than a lead-acid battery up front, but they actually last, after 5,000 cycles in most use cases, you're going to have 75 to 80% of the power left. If you cycle it every day for 10 years, it's 3,650 cycles. So that's why we offer the 10-year warranty. It's really simple. If a lithium battery is producing the quality, if the company's producing a quality lithium battery, they shouldn't have a problem offering a 10-year warranty on it, because the technology has far surpassed that time frame. Lithium iron phosphate was actually invented in the mid-90s at the University of Texas in Austin. And it took this long for it to get commercialized to the point where we can afford to use it. So there are other lithium technologies out there that are coming to the forefront, but they won't be usable in this type of application for quite a while. And also another thing about lithium iron phosphate, which is a chemistry that we use, is 3.2 volts per cell. So it's a 12.8 nominal voltage battery, which works great in our applications as far as a 12-volt vehicle goes. That way you don't have to change any of these other components that you've already invested in. The only difference is if you change the lithium, you can store 2 to 3 times the amount of power in the same amount of space. Do you want to know why you can do that? Okay. I'm going to try not to nerd out on you too much here. Let's see. So, does anyone here know what the Peukert effect is?
I've heard of it. I don't know. I tried to understand it, but...
All right. Well, let me just explain it in real basic terms. So the thing in lead-acid batteries is called the Peukert effect, which means the higher of a load you hit a battery with, the less actual usable power is inside of it. So we did some testing on 2 6-volt. I'm sure someone here uses 6-volt batteries, right? Okay, so 6 volts are pretty popular. They have a reputation for lasting a little bit longer. So we did 2 6-volt tests on a 50 amp draw, which 50 amps on a 12-volt system is 600 watts about. And you could only get about 42 usable amp hours out of a 225 amp hour 6-volt bank before you got to the 11.8 voltage, which is where they say, this is your 50% line, don't go below this or you'll exponentially reduce the cycles in the battery. So that's right, 42 usable amp hours on a brand new set of 6-volt batteries before you started to damage them out of 225. So they say you can use 50% of the battery, it's 50% of the power, but the part they leave out is that 50% is variable based on the load. On a 30 amp draw, we were able to pull 70 amp hours out of the batteries. So we're almost to a third now, right? Still not at 50%. On a 10 amp draw, we got 115 amp hours out of the battery bank on lead acid. So now we're at 50%. If you're just pulling 120 watts, it's 120 watts is not very much. That's like a TV and a satellite box or something like that. It's not very much power at all. And lithium batteries are not affected by the Peukert effect at all. That means they can deliver you all their power, no problem. So at a 50 amp draw, a 30 amp draw, a 10 amp draw, you get 100 amp hours out of the battery every time. As a matter of fact, we all know about the 20-hour rating, right? That's another lie lead acid battery companies tell you. I'm not here to expose them or anything like that, just so you guys know. But they tell you they rate the battery in a 20-hour rate. I don't know anyone that discharges their batteries over 20 hours. I'm usually not awake that long normally, but I think that, lithium batteries, whether you pull the power out in 20 hours or 1 hour, you get the same amount of power. And that's why I say you can get 2 to 3 times the amount of usable power in the same amount of space. Because the Peukert effect doesn't affect lithium. So if you have 300 amp hours of power, you have 300 amp hours of usable power. Another thing about our batteries are that we don't deliver a battery to the market that's below 100 amp hours, and we know that because we assemble them all in-house. A lot of companies out there are selling like a 90, 95, maybe a 98. They don't know because they're importing the batteries from China. They don't have quality control in place to be able to know the exact capacity of that battery. Most of the batteries we deliver to the market are between 102 and 108 amp hours. So you're going to get 100 amp hours out of them every time.
I had a question.
Go ahead, sir.
You mentioned the drop-in batteries and then mentioned the add-on chargers, converter charges. And I did get in late, but I bought a so-called drop-in lithium for my rig, and the factory said, yeah, all you got to do is install it. But I don't know if you covered this, but if you have a newer RV, I've got a 2017, and that converter in it will not charge that lithium. I had to buy, because they do charge at higher rates, and I did have to buy an additional converter charger to charge my lithium in case the sun doesn't go out.
Okay, so what kind of RV is it? The 2017?
It's outdoors.
Outdoors. Okay.
Yeah, it came with the standard.
Was it a WIFCO converter?
Yeah.
Okay, so that converter goes to 13.6 most of the time. It sits there and it goes to a 13.2 like storage mode, and every once in a while it boosts to 14.4, which is acceptable for our batteries. You don't necessarily have to change it, but it won't charge the battery as fast as possible or fully all the time. So unless you have a large amount of solar on the roof, we would recommend you go with a progressive dynamic swap out on that. That way you can charge more rapidly. I feel like one of the benefits to having a lithium battery is the fact that you don't want to be plugged in, right? So you don't want to sit there for 8 hours and wait for the battery to charge. You want to charge it up in 2 or 3 hours and be on your way. So you can upgrade the charging system, but there is no converter in the RV industry right now that will hurt our battery. So if someone wants to buy them and just see if the charger they have is working fine for them, they can leave it alone in the very beginning and then change it out later if they want to go faster.
I changed my, now I do have 1,000 watts of solar on the roof and a 260 amp hour lithium, but that thing in the summer by 9:30's got a full charge. But we use about 80 to 100 amp hours a night, so yeah, these things charge up light.
Right, you can charge a lithium battery like 5 times faster, like you're saying, so it's about 5 times faster than lead acid. A lead acid battery, does anyone know what happens if you charge a lead acid battery faster than 20% of your capacity? Boil, and then what happens? It swells up. You can't remove it from the RV. It's like stuck in the rack. Lithium battery, you can charge it up to 5 times faster. This is the one caveat that people kind of miss sometimes, is that discharging the battery fast, discharging it deeply, is not going to shorten the lifespan of the battery. Recharging faster than 50% of your battery bank size will shorten your lifespan a little bit. That's one of the things that we always recommend. If you have 200 amp hours, don't charge faster than 100 amps. But you can discharge as fast as you want to and also as deeply as you want to every time. It will not shorten the lifespan of the battery. Any other questions?
When you say deeply discharged, do you mean down near zero?
Yeah, our BMS is designed to give you the full 100 amp hours out before it shuts down.
Okay.
It's a good question that you brought up, actually. If you're in a unit that's like a towable, or if you're not charging off your alternator, you're going to want to use a DC disconnect. That's one part that I should talk about here. We use one called a battery guard from Precision Circuits. It'll cut the loads off at about 12 volts. The reason why you want to do that is if you have an inverter charger and a solar charge controller and you're not charging off your alternator, let's say it's a towable, or you decided just not to tap into the vehicle system for recharging, you might think, okay, well, I'm good. If I run out of power, I'll just start my generator. Well, traditional inverter chargers and solar charge controllers need to technically see a battery in order to start charging. So when our BMS shuts off, the battery goes down below 5 volts. Just like if you run a lead acid battery down too far, you have to bring a conditioner out to bring it up to an acceptable voltage to charge it. The lithium battery just turns off. it actually turns off to protect itself. So unless you apply a 12-volt source to the battery, you won't be able to recharge it. That's why it's important to use a DC disconnect or be connected to the alternator, because as soon as you close that relay, it'll wake the battery right up again. Question back there?
It was basically the same thing. I thought there was a 20% limit on deep discharging that you tried to maintain.
There's a lot of companies out there that say that. I think it's because their battery management system isn't designed properly, or they're using a balancing system. A lot of prismatic companies say that. You can only, and prismatic cells are usually quoted to last about 2,000 cycles. The problem with a prismatic cell battery is that you only have 4 cells to spread all your load across. Our battery, the 100 amp hour, has 120 cells, so if I lose one of those cells, I'll still have a 12-volt battery. If you lose a cell in a prismatic battery, you have a 9-volt battery. So I think that their battery management system, they do quote that 80% number, but we always quote 100 on ours. Anybody else got any questions? Hang on one second. We offer a 10-year warranty on our battery, and we say after, in most cases, all the testing that we do is at a 1C rate, so after 3,000 cycles. Does everyone know what a C rating is on a battery? No. So that means if a 1C rate means all the testing that we do, we charge the battery at 100 amp hours and discharge it at 100 amp hours. And after 3,000 cycles, we have about 75% of the power left. It's not really a feasible use case for, most people are running at like a 0.2 C rate. So they're going to see about 5,000 cycles, they'll have 75 to 80% of the power left, which is well over 10 years if you cycle it every day. Oh, yeah. There was another question here.
Does the BMS shut off the power when it gets below freezing?
Perfect.
Not accept
Cold temperature charging protection. We were the first company to have that. Basically, our battery, if you're inside the coach gets below 25 degrees, the battery won't take a charge. That's to protect itself from something called lithium plating, which will significantly shorten the lifespan of the battery. It'll start to take a charge again after it gets up above 32. So we just keep the battery above 32. I don't think we're asking for much there on that, especially if it's in your living quarters. But I think another thing to keep in mind is it will discharge also still. It just won't take a charge. And then the upper end cutoff is at 135, 140 degrees.
And that's built into the battery?
It's built into the battery management system. Yeah, there's a thermistor inside that monitors the internal temperature of the cells. There's another question. I think there was a few more. Our normal 100 amp hour price is $949. We're doing a special here for $849 per battery. There was another question back here, though. Yes?
I've got a Victron charge controller.
Yes.
And it has all the different types of batteries, and you can set the little rotating switch, to choose. One of them is lithium battery. Should I go ahead and choose that, or should I choose AGM because you say it's a drop-in replacement?
It depends on how the settings are on that particular algorithm. This must be a PWM controller. It must be like MPPT.
I'll bring you the list.
I can look it up and tell you the model number after I do a talk here. I'll be happy to look at it with you. All right. This guy back here is going. What size inverter are you using?
Well, we may be able
1500? Say 1500? Because the question is, if you want to run a microwave off the battery bank, what size battery how many batteries do you need? More based on the inverter, actually. Each battery is capable of putting out 100 amps continuous, which is about 1200 watts. So if you have a 1500 watt inverter, which is what this gentleman's using, I believe, you'd need 2 batteries to power that continuously. Because the battery can surge to 200 amps for 30 seconds, but a microwave usually, you probably want to run it more than 30 seconds. Most microwaves won't run properly unless it's a pure sine inverter. Most inverter charges are pure sine wave these days too.
What's the weight comparison between this?
That's a good question. Our 31-pound 100 amp hour battery is the power equivalent of 140 pounds of lead acid, so it's about 1/5 the weight.
I've got a 260 amp hour that weighs about 85 pounds. It's amazing. One battery? One battery. It's pretty cool.
It's huge.
great if you don't have the payload capacity.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to move Sean into the shade with anybody that has questions for him. And since he's in the question and answers phase of his presentation, so you guys aren't in the sun. But before we do that, I've got Tile to make an announcement while I have everybody. And also Daniel. So Daniel, come on up. Go ahead.
We're going to stick around here today till 4:30 to make sure we answer all your questions. And if we can't do it today, we'll come back tomorrow morning too. So.
Well, guys, I hope that kind of explained a little bit about what Battleborn batteries are really about and what lithium batteries are really about and the difference between those and lead acid batteries. Right now, currently, we do not have Battleborn batteries or lithium for that matter. We actually have the blue top, gray bottom, Optimum deep cycle starting batteries. So I have 4 of those underneath the bed here, and then we have another one underneath the hood to make 5 in a system. So that's what we're using. I would really love to have lithium, but these batteries are working great. Now with the new solar panel, they're staying topped off really, really well, and until they fail, we're going to continue to use these batteries. I don't know if you guys know, but we've plugged into power maybe 10 times over the last 3 years we've been on the road, and our solar's been able to top it off. We actually do charge when we drive too, so that helps. But we just wanted you guys to understand what Battleborn and Sean there has to offer at Battleborn. And this is the solution we're probably going to be going to once these batteries do fail. They're all 3 years old. They're still working great. But at some point, it will happen. And this is probably the way we're going to be heading. And I know a lot of you have a lot of questions about lithium and lead acid batteries, and I hope Sean from Battleborn was able to explain those things. And listening to his presentation here at the van build really, I think, kind of made it understandable for some people that do not have degrees in electrical engineering or engineering, and to make it so that people can understand what the difference is between a lead acid battery and a lithium. So, but I hope you decide to go lithium. If you do, I hope you decide to go to Battleborn, get a hold of them, and get a hold of Sean, and I'm sure he'll take care of you. And until the next upload, please like,
comment,
and subscribe.
Check us out on Facebook and Instagram.
There's more content on the Patreon, and we'll see you guys in the next upload right here. I think we're leaving the van build here in the morning, and we'll bring you guys with us.
To get your Van Life Sheldon's travel stickers, go to our PayPal. The link is in the description below. One can be yours for $5 or 2 for $8 going to the same address. And please remember to include your address with your payment. As always, thanks for traveling with us.
And don't forget to click on that subscribe button or the Patreon button or one of our hundreds of videos in our playlist below.